Welcome. I'm Larry Olsen, and this is the Brain Vault Podcast. Did you know that the thoughts you're thinking right now are shaping the life you'll live tomorrow? Well, in this podcast, we just don't talk about mindset. We decode the blueprint behind behavior, performance, and possibility. This is where science meets real-world strategy, and your brain stops running on autopilot. If you're ready to turn default thinking into intentional living, you're in the right place. Well, welcome everyone. And with all those choices out there, you chose us. And as we all know, the only thing we can't get back in our life is our time. So we're going to make that a terrific investment for you. Today on the Brain Vault Podcast, where science meets success, we're talking about a pattern that quietly drains performance. Think about this. Confidence and self-worth, especially for high-achieving women. Our guest is Beatriz Victoria Albina, a certified somatic life coach and the author of End Emotional Outsourcing. Bay coined the term emotional outsourcing to describe the deeply conditioned habit of seeking safety, validation, and worth outside of ourselves, often saying yes when we really mean no, over-functioning in relationships, and living in a constant state of nervous system stress. Sound familiar? Well, this isn't pop psychology. It's science-backed, body-based work that helps people regulate their nervous system, reclaim their time and energy, and build relationships rooted in self-trust instead of self-abandonment. If you've ever felt successful on the outside, but quietly exhausted, anxious, or disconnected on the inside, this conversation is going to land for you. Bay, you coined the term emotional outsourcing. And I'd like to also welcome you for investing your time with us. We're very excited to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Larry. And it's Bea.
And it's Bea. Well, I'm on a roll right now.
Doing the best we can.
Most important word in someone's English language, all of our English languages, is our own. So, Bea, thank you for your forgiveness.
Of course.
You coined the term emotional outsourcing. What is it? How does it quietly show up in the lives of capable, driven people who don't realize they're doing it?
Yeah. So emotional outsourcing is the nervous system's way of trying to guarantee safety, belonging, and worth, the three most vital human needs, through others when it once wasn't safe to really hold these things out inside of ourselves. And so we learned the survival habits, brilliant, amazing survival habits of looking outside to source that sense of okayness. And this is my umbrella term for what we commonly refer to as codependency, perfectionism, and people-pleasing, where I define in a nutshell, codependent habits is managing other people to feel safe. People-pleasing is keeping others comfortable to avoid rejection. And perfectionism is controlling yourself to attempt to earn love.
Whoa. Well, it doesn't sound like you're going to get a lot of positive outcomes from any of those three approaches.
Well, except that you do at first. And I think that's what really differentiates my work, is highlighting that none of these habits mean that you don't have a defective character. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not guilty of it. In fact, they were brilliant. They were amazing. I mean, think about a 6-year-old who only gets their parents' true attention, true connection, true attunement when they bring home an A+. Or a trophy, or take care of all the other kids, or, right, perform being lovable the way they know their parents want them to. Or the 8-year-old who hears a parent's footsteps and are like, oh, she sounds angry. I'm gonna, manage this room, manage emotions. Like, Larry, that's friggin' brilliant, right? I think these habits need to be profoundly celebrated, so that in our adult selves, we can find another way to source safety, belonging, and worth internally, not just externally, right? So we can be more grounded, more present, more regulated, more intentional, and not just live from childhood survival defects. But wow, what smart kiddos, huh?
Mm, mhm. Yeah, it's very intelligent as a child, as you say, but unfortunately, we carry it on into adulthood, and we're asking more, "How am I doing?" than paying attention to what we're contributing, and it leads to a lot of, this whole scarcity mentality, the fraud within, this whole element of the imposter syndrome, which a lot of leaders go through. They say if 95% of people really knew who a leader was, they probably wouldn't be in that position. And, the good news is everyone's in that position. So join the family. How do you assist others who are still I remember coming home from school in grade school, and I'd bring a friend and the whole house would be dark. All the curtains would be closed because my mother had a migraine. And so my whole reality was, how do I make sure we're quiet, we don't make any noise? Um, and it was always odd for whatever friend I brought home. We ended up, needless to say, going outside to play. But I was developing coping mechanisms as well. And being a mother, you know how huge that is. And then we bring that into our lives later on, no matter how intellectually intelligent we may feel we are relative to what we think we know about the brain and about human behavior, we still get trapped in how am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? And how do you take this brilliance that a youngster developed and then channel that so we can now utilize that in a much more functional, healthy manner, if you will?
Yeah, so if you've spent your whole life orienting towards others, hyper attuned to their emotions, walking on eggshells, anticipating needs before they're spoken, it's vital to recognize that your nervous system has wired itself to, as you said, to prioritize external safety over internal stability. And that's where somatics or body based practices come in, right? Because we need to realize that emotional outsourcing pulls us away from self and then melds us with the people around us, which leads to that role confusion. Right. And
Mhm.
so
Right.
before we can actually shift behavior, shift mindset, shift the role we show up in, we have to actually feel ourselves as separate people. Right? Does that resonate that like I'm not here in this body. I'm minding in this example you shared, I'm minding my mother. I'm minding
Mm.
her needs, her wants, right? And then the friends. So you were minding two people. I doubt there was much capacity left to mind Larry in that situation, if I may, right?
Well, and then having a sister who was born mentally delayed, only
Sure.
sibling. So it
Oh
was
yeah.
my responsibility to make sure everybody was taken care of. At least that was my interpretation at the time.
Right, right, right. And listen, it's loving and kind and wonderful and beautiful to take care of each other. The question becomes, is it at a cost to self?
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Right? Because I
Yeah.
I love taking care of my people. I love giving. I love being of support, and I am now somatically present, embodied. I'm in my body. And so I have connection with my intuition and with my discernment. And so I know where the line is because I can feel it.
Mhm.
Right? Because my
Mhm.
body lets me know, I need some time. I need a walk. I need the ocean. I need whatever it is to care for me so that I can continue to care for the people I love. But that too is that somatic presence that's taken from us in emotional outsourcing, um, because we don't focus on us. So the more you practice noticing yourself without judgment, the stronger your internal reference point becomes, which helps you remember that you are and can be the center of your own universe in a healthy,
Mhm.
non-self-absorbed kind of way, um, by retraining your nervous system to feel present.
Now, I've got a question for you. When you any of us grow up wanting to make sure everybody else is taken care of, and then we recognize that, there's a shift now to what about me? How do I start taking care of me? And what the first thing that happens is guilt. I'm shouldn't be paying attention to me. That's
Yeah.
narcissistic. And we have all these negative connotations around coveting thyself. That old proverb about love thy neighbor like thyself. The problem is everybody does, and that's the problem. As that whole step of loving thyself seems like it's in such violation of make it about others. And, if you really want your people to grow, you got to focus on them and you got to really listen to them. And all of those things are key to engagement. But how do you keep that, and you call it the somatic intelligence. And what do you mean by that? When you talk about touching base with body and self, what does that mean?
So I really want to pause, right? Because we quickly conflate caring for ourselves and narcissism.
Mm,
It's not the
mm,
first time I've heard this. Narcissism is a profoundly ingrained pattern of protecting a fragile sense of self by relying on admiration, control, or validation from others to feel worthy and safe that leads to manipulation, right? Because again, it's a fragile sense of self, which is what we also have in emotional outsourcing. So, quite
mhm,
frankly, not taking care of ourselves in emotional outsourcing, I would find just as problematic as the behaviors in narcissism in a very different way. I'm not equating or equivocating. I'm just saying what needs attuned to and tended to and taken care of is that fragile sense of self, because that is a core feature of both ways of relating,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And so the narcissist is trying to manipulate you into caring for it, whereas from emotional outsourcing, it's sort of a power under versus a power over.
hmm,
But it's still a
oh,
power game. It's still
yeah,
right? It's still the patriarchy. It's still white settler colonialism. It's still capitalism. It's still power games instead of equity and equality and connection and presence, right? It's
mhm,
still a
mhm,
problematic and not grounded way of relating. It's also not neither is a very emotionally mature way of relating, right?
mhm, mhm,
So, to the second part of your question, what is somatics? What does that mean? Why how do we use it here and how does it help? So, soma means body in Greek, and somatics are any set of practices or modalities that support us in stepping into connection with the body in its wholeness. Yeah. And so
mhm,
somatics are, they're practices that at their core are about stepping into a profound presence in which we feel our feelings and connect with sensation through the body and let the body guide us. And I know for a lot of really smarty pants people who've really rested on their intellectual side, on their smarts, on their ability to think it right through, intellectualizers tend to live from the neck up,
hmm,
right? And
hmm,
so when asked, particularly in emotional outsourcing, how do you feel? How you doing? Oh, great, right? It's just all
mhm,
from the neck up, right? There's not really a presence in the animal that connects us into into our intuition and discernment. Let me back this bus up just a minute. So when we grow up in homes or cultures or societies or religions or schools where love or approval feels conditional, right? So where safety, belonging, and worth depend on how good, how useful, how accommodating we are, our body learns that performing and pleasing equals survival. And so what's important here is that learning is implicit, right? It's part of procedural memory in the mind, in the nervous system, meaning it's stored in the nervous system and emotional memory, not just in the thinking brain, right? And
mhm,
so
mhm,
when we're working to overcome emotional outsourcing, we need to override these deeply ingrained biological protection patterns, ones our bodies still believe is keeping us alive, right? It has nothing to do with willpower, it's biology. So when your nervous system perceives threat, and for us, that tends to mean social threat, like someone being disappointed, someone being displeased. Your partner says, "What do you want for dinner?" And you say sushi, but they want burgers, right? And they go, "Oh, sushi." It triggers a physiological cascade. Heart rate goes up, cortisol and adrenaline surge. Your vagus nerve shifts out of calm engagement and into mobilization. Now, from that state, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, new behavior, it goes, let's say, partially offline, as it were, right? The point is that you go into a survival state and you're not in agency. You're not in choicefulness. And
Mhm.
that's why oh, sure, we'll do what you want. Well, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm okay. Don't worry. It's fine. It's fine. But if we were to pause, slow down, get present, it's not fine. It's not okay. It doesn't feel good. It's not what you want. It's not your preference. You're not giving from a full cup, right? You're not giving from your overflow. Like we talked about previously, it's beautiful to give and support and love and to know that limit, and that limit lives in the body,
Mhm.
right? And so somatic work, body-based work is vital to get into all that coding that just doesn't live in the brain. It's just not where you find it, so it's not where you change it.
Mhm. Mhm. So when you're, and very well said, by the way,
Mm,
when you are attempting to connect with your body,
mhm.
you're still asking yourself how you're doing. If you've gotten so ingrained in you the head up element, and now you're rating yourself on, did I really get calm? Did I meditate long enough? What time is it now? How do you help people who are head up start allowing their body to play a role in their reality as opposed to them manipulating it as well?
I sort of steer clear of the word manipulating. I know I used it around narcissism, but I steer clear of it in emotional outsourcing because it's not conscious, right? Like we're not making the decision to manipulate others. Generally
Right,
speaking,
right,
we got
right.
outliers here, Larry.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
takes all sorts, but
yeah.
for the most part, it's just this survival self. It's like, when a 6-year-old lies to you, like they're not trying to lie. They're just 6 and they tell stories, right? Like we understand from developmental psychology. They're not trying to pull a fast one. They're just everything's a fast one. They're 6, right? So we need to start by stepping away from that kind of guilting and shaming language. So,
Mhm,
chapter 8 in my book is all about shame because shame is one of the things that leads us into emotional outsourcing, keeps us trapped in emotional outsourcing, and leads us to beat ourselves up as we try to step out of emotional outsourcing. And so, the very concept of beating ourselves up for how long we meditated, right? Or we need to pause and sort of step away from that language and find a gentler way to relate.
mhm.
Um, I got so wrapped up in that, I forgot the rest of the question, Larry.
Well, I think I triggered you with the term manipulation. I'll use a different
No,
term.
no, no,
Yeah,
I'm not triggered. No, no, no. I just, semantics matter, right? The language we choose creates our reality. And so I really wanted to just speak to that. But no, no, I'm not. I'm quite regulated.
yeah. Well, what I was referring to is that if we're all heads up, we're
Yeah.
intellectualizing,
Ah,
trying
right.
to intellectualize our
Jogged my
emotions.
memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we start with peeing.
Peeing, okay?
That's
Literally.
correct. So,
Okay.
literally. So, we start with our biological impulses. So,
Okay.
again, emotional outsourcing pulls you away from yourself and melds you with the people around you.
Okay.
Somatics brings you back into yourself because before you can shift behavior, you actually have to feel yourself as a separate person. I don't know about you, but there's not a woman I've ever talked uh, to whom I've said, have you ever said, oh, I'll pee later? I need to get the lunch boxes made. I need to get that ready. I need to do that. I need to do this pickup. I need to do the 400,000 things, activities of daily living in a household or work, or I'll pee later. I'll eat later. I'll rest later. Right? We
Mhm.
put aside our biological impulses, not because we are in the middle of doing brain surgery or, right, attending to I don't know, car crash, right?
Owning somebody's aorta, yeah.
For goodness sake, right?
Yeah.
Um, but rather because it's ingrained into us that our needs don't matter. that we can put our bodies last, 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 last,
Yeah, or
right?
if not, our needs don't matter, our needs shouldn't matter,
Yeah,
right? I
right?
mean, we
Yeah,
kind of we know we have needs. We know we should be taking care of ourselves,
yeah,
but there's that element of, "Yes, but then I'll be letting someone down. Should I go ahead and do that?"
right,
So, the
right.
work you do is amazing, and
Oh,
and the results speak for themselves, but that whole transition
mm,
between the change and transformation, there's gotta be some kinda aha moment, or is it an incremental, step by step that allows someone to begin to get good at paying
yeah.
attention to their body?
Yeah, I think it's different for different constitutions, but I tend to recommend, um, yeah, the slow titrated step by step. And so one of my favorite things to recommend that folks do is to set an alarm on their phone for 3 times a day.
Okay.
And when it goes off, you pause.
Hmm,
You
hmm,
take one slow deep breath
okay.
with a long exhale because that's what grounds the nervous system. What am I feeling right now? And just accept whatever answer comes up. For half of the people, most of the time, it's going to be, I don't know. Cool. Okay, cool. Great. That's where we're starting. Fantastic. And then scan your body.
Yeah.
So let your brain scan your body. Where is there tension? Where is there ease? And then most importantly, what sensations are present? What sensations are present? And then you can start to slowly ask your body, what do you need? So if your
Mhm,
shoulders are tight, maybe you do little rolling out of the arms, of the shoulders. Yeah. If
mhm,
your hands are tight, if you're anxious and your hands are tight, you do some self-honoring by shaking your hands or
mhm,
stretching them, right?
mhm, mhm.
Et cetera, et cetera. But again, this is about practicing noticing yourself without judgment. So then
Gotcha.
you become your internal reference point slowly but surely. And then the cathartic moment, right, that you were
Okay.
speaking to, all of a sudden you get a call and someone says, hey there, this is whomever from the PTA. I was hoping that, you could make us 4 million cupcakes by yesterday. Are you busy? And you pause. You say, yeah, give me a second there. You breathe. I'm actually not able to make 4 million. I'm not available for that, but I could pick up a box of cookies from the supermarket. I could bring those over probably in about 2 hours or so.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're
You
being of
reclaim.
service. You reclaim,
Yeah,
right? You're
yeah,
being of service. You're taking care of the people you love. You're being the person you want to be per your own values.
yeah,
If you value being helpful, being community, etc., but not by abandoning yourself and giving yourself away.
yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Because you're not, as you say, you're not violating your caring side, but you're also holding yourself accountable to what's realistic here. And when you talk about that breathing, the intellectual side of me goes, well, now you're calming the amygdala, so your
Sure.
frontal lobes can fully engage and you can think and reason, because otherwise you'll just say yes. And
Right.
then it's that old commercial, "Yeah, New York on Monday, I can do that. San Francisco on Tuesday, I can do that." And then pretty soon you go, "How am I gonna do that?" And we live in this constant drip, cortisol drip. And cortisol is
Yeah.
not negative, but if we're constantly in that state of what's next, and how am I doing now? Exactly. And you talked about something really powerful too, and it reminded me of in graduate school in psychology, I had a professor who was a doctorate in child psychology. And if he said, if you ever have children, he goes, and you want to hit it over the head over the fence as a parent, there's only one thing you need to assure. And I go, what's that? And he goes, it's not about how much time you spend with them. It's not the quality of the time. Is if your children know that you love them unconditionally. And, you mentioned it, and I'll share this with leaders. If they come home with 4 A's and a B and you wanna talk about the B, it's now become conditional. If you go, "Are you really wearing that?" when they're ready to go outside, it's now because it's so easy to want to impact and impart our wisdom and our social norms onto these young minds that it isn't unconditional any longer. And how do we get to a point where we can learn to love ourselves unconditionally? Because I'm sure your work, that would be an end result ultimately.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Because much like what hanging out with younger folks and imparting that wisdom, we are most able to listen to a kind voice, a loving voice, right? A gentle voice, a voice that doesn't yell at us and call us mean names, and a voice that isn't cruel to us, right? Like
Yeah. Or shaming
we
us. Yeah.
or shame us or blame us or guilt us. And so, I mean, there is this sort of cultural norm, unfortunately, of like, I have to be harsh with myself or I'm not never going to get anything done. I'm never going to change. But yeah, to your point, being tender, I think, is one of the most important things we can be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm much more likely to like get up and go and do the things I want and need to do in this world if I talk to myself like a small soft animal instead of like a drill sergeant. Who wants that? You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
and, I've always felt and my biggest disappointment growing up is that I couldn't bear children, and the only reason I say that is I would never able to experience what it is to grow another entity inside of you. I just think that's such a deprivation of insight. And and I also recognized that intuitiveness and the leap ahead that the female has, and I'm probably gonna alienate a lot of people out there by stating this, but I think it's something that the male is attempting to get back at. Not back at them, but get back to the sensitivity and the understanding and putting ourselves becoming more empathetic and instead of "I wanted it done yesterday" type of thing. And living off of this element of control and being in charge, and because I'm a male. And you don't have to be in control and you don't have to be in charge. And the only way you're ever in control is when you give up control. And, all these elements of, because I know you work primarily with women and also obviously men, but um, I just wanted you to know from my perspective, I'm just always in awe of my wife, my partner.
Mhm.
Um, I yelled at we all went on a trip, and, all the kids, 5 kids and us in the car, and they were screaming and yelling in the back seat. I turned around and yelled at them to stop yelling. It was over 20 years ago, and then my wife turns around and speaks in a very calm voice, "Could we speak in a lower pitch? Could we take it down a little bit?" And everybody took it down a little bit.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, why didn't I do that?" And I was still that trying to control, and I think that
Mhm.
we lose our tenderness with ourself
Mhm.
because we're trying to control ourselves as well, and
Certainly.
that means we're asking ourselves, "How am I doing?" constantly, and this is
Mhm.
the shift that I think is probably the most important thing to do.
Mhm.
It's not how are you doing, how are you feeling? That's what I hear you saying, and taking that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so take us from there a little bit on, um, when we get into that moment where we've gotta control everything. And is that the time we pause after we've been asked to bring a million cupcakes? Where's this trigger that we can like, "Okay, it's time to take a deep breath."
Oh, yeah. So somatic practices work best when we don't try to use them for the first time in an
100.
activated moment.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely want a nervous system that's pretty squarely in ventral vagal, in the safe and social part of the nervous system. When that is our innervative path, that's when meaning when we're chill, when we're calm, when we are at home on our own cozy couch, there's maybe a little candle lit and everyone's quiet or everyone's out of the house and you have 4 minutes to yourself.
Mm,
That's when we really work to build these muscles and build these skills, um, and to build the capacity. So, somatic practices, what I teach my clients, what I teach in my book, what I teach on my podcast, they are practices towards the goal of praxis, meaning you're not doing somatics eventually. You just are present. You are
gotcha.
embodied. The way you relate is from that framework. And so we need to give ourselves a lot of patience between one and the other. And we want to do the practices when our nervous system has the most elasticity, right? The
Mhm.
most availability to go with the proverbial flow and to be flexible, which is when we're not freaked out or pissed off or shut down or numb or exhausted. Like, those are not the moments to practice. That's
Okay.
not going to go well, right?
Good advice.
That's when you yell at the kids versus
Yeah. Yeah.
practicing being at home in yourself, grounding, coming into presence when things are copacetic.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Um, this could go on and on and on. I mean, you are fascinating, and you open up so many doors to the human condition. Um, so what I would like you to do, if you would be so kind, Bea, is to, for those people out there that are feeling kind of stuck,
Mm.
or maybe they just missed that opportunity for that promotion, or they've got themselves in this unfortunate mindset of having to be right, and they've really kind of screwed the relationship up a little bit, if you will, because unfortunately the other person ends up wrong, and we know how that goes in a relationship. So what would you say for them, something that they can do to be able to kind of like get out of that state that I asked you about? What do you do when you're all uptight? And you go, certainly don't get into somatics at that time. Give
Yeah.
your right. What would you
Yeah,
say?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So in that, I'm going to go full dragon and rip
Okay.
somebody's head off moment. Yeah, that's what you're asking?
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
Or
great.
you're stuck, or you just found out, you're disappointed. You just found out I worked so hard and I didn't get it. And you're discombobulated, I guess, and unable to really pay attention to anything. People are talking to you, but their lips are just moving.
Okay. So what do we do
Okay.
in a moment of sympathetic activation when the nervous
Okay.
system's revved up, or
Yes.
a moment when the dorsal vagal state, we're moving more into that, right? When we're more, so instead of adrenaline, more acetylcholine, right? When
Okay.
we're
Yeah.
like going a little numb, a little maybe towards dissociated, but not fully dissociated, a little checked out. Yeah. So
Right at the
luckily,
headlight.
yeah, deer in the headlights, possum
Yeah.
playing possum. Um, Great. One of my favorite tools is we can use it for both. Yeah.
Okay.
And so you're going to take your paw, either paw, or you can use both paws. Um, and you're going to take your thumb and you're going to tap each of your fingers while counting them. And we're going to do this out loud if you are able. And if you're not in a setting where that's possible, don't.
And
What's
tell
great.
them why you need to do it out loud.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So we're going
Okay.
to do it where you can see your hands is great. But if you're in a board meeting or a PTA meeting or some other place where it would not really be groovy for you to do that, put your hand under the desk and you can just feel yourself doing it. Why do we say it out loud? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, the auditory processing channel, the more parts of the brain we get firing through the sensorium, the more sensory channels, the more it's going to impact your nervous system, right? Um, there is, again, when we're talking about emotional outsourcing, who's the boss of you? Everyone else. Who are we working to make the boss of you? You. So when
Mhm.
you're the one counting and you can hear it, right? It's sort of reiterates and reifies the fact that you are making the choices. You're
Okay.
driving this bus, not your
Okay.
survival habits, not your
Yeah, yeah.
autonomic nervous system going automatic, right?
Gotcha.
You are pausing. And again,
Beautiful.
if you can't do it out loud, who cares? Do your best.
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's always a
I
do
get
your
that.
best kind of jam around here. And
Yeah.
so you're going to count. If your nervous system's going fast, you go slow. If your nervous system's going too slow, meaning that deer in the headlights checked out, wait, what? Oh, sorry. I'm really disappointed. I'm really frustrated. I can't believe I didn't get the promotion. Oh my God. What? Sorry. Were we doing Oh, sorry. You're going to want to eventually go fast, but heed me, please. Mark my
Okay.
words. We do not jump from checked out to super fast,
Okay.
because that's when you actually can trigger your nervous system and can overwhelm you. It's not a great scene. So if you're feeling checked out, we're going to go slowly. Okay? We're going to move towards moving faster, but we're going to do it slowly. Did that English?
Yes.
I
Yep.
think it Englished. Great.
Okay.
So you're going to take your thumbs and you're going to tap your first finger. And let's say you're feeling kind of checked out.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to go 1, your New York finger and go 2, your ring finger and go 3, your pinky and go 4. And you're going to come back 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the more checked out you are, go excuse yourself to the bathroom. Go take 5
Mm,
minutes.
mm,
Who cares? You're eventually going to get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4,
mm,
and let your body rock, right? Let yourself bounce. Let it move you to bring you back towards the land of the living. So you can
mm.
make the next best choice. So you can drive home. So you can, or get on the subway. So you can like be a person in the world.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, if you're in the like, oh, I'm going to scream at these kids again, you're going to go 1 and like a full exhale. The more homicidal you're feeling, the more exhale, please. And then your middle finger, 2, 3, 4, and come back. Slow and steady. Slow and steady. Now, here's what's amazing. All this work is about pattern interruption. I mean, you understand the psychology of pattern interruption, but we actually interrupt pattern best with new pattern,
Mm, mm, mm.
right? So we give
Yep.
the nervous system an alternate pattern on which to function and focus and direct itself to get us out of the old pattern from implicit and procedural memory.
Mhm.
God,
Beautiful.
science is so cool,
Yeah.
right?
It
There's
is.
nothing cooler than science, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's wonderful when we recognize the brilliance that each of us as a human possesses,
Yeah.
and how unfortunate it is that we start paying attention to so many limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's where a lot of stress and anxiety comes from, is we're not meeting up to this false expectation. It's not so much we didn't make the number or we didn't, show up on time, but it's the lack of appreciation for this single entity, the 1 in 400 trillion chances of being alive to begin with, and we are, and yet we're not enjoying our lives. And, it's not to be in bliss and it's not hoorah all the time, but it is appreciation. And it is what you shared too about what it is to feel present and what is to take the step of feeling who you are, not so much what you become, which is that slipping into the intellectual side of it too. And you've also conditioned your nervous system. So you are fascinating, and I know you have a podcast and a great book. How do people reach out to you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my website is my full name. It's Beatriz, Beatriz Albina. My book is called End Emotional Outsourcing, and you can find out all about that book. There's a whole list of places to buy it from on my website at beatrizalbina.com/book. My podcast is called Feminist Wellness, and it's free wherever you get your shows. It comes out weekly. My signature program is called Anchored, and you can learn more about it at beatrizalbina.com/anchored. And you can find me on Instagram, again, at my full name.
Beautiful. Well, it has been a pleasure, and I thank you for the time. I thank you for your patience and us getting started as well. Um, and I also want to thank all of you out there, and again, recognize wherever you find yourself is exactly where you need to be. And if you find yourselves out of sorts, breathe, count. If you find yourself trying to please others, take a little time out and recognize we need to take care of ourselves. And what she mentioned too, Bea mentioned was every 3 hours or so, have an alarm go off, and where you discount, you step away from whatever it is you've got yourself so involved in, and start to feel again, and start to touch base with this phenomenal thing called you that had taken hundreds of thousands of years to develop. It's absolutely amazing. Or 6 days, whatever your philosophy is. We all have this remarkable brain and this nervous system, and I always think about the 5-year-old. It really wants to play. It wants to be curious again and enjoy the quality of this once in a lifetime experience. And we'll find out if there's more. We're all in no danger of not finding out. But in the meantime, this is our life. And you've certainly enhanced it, Bea, and we're all very appreciative of you taking your time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Larry.
And thank all of you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you and seeing you next time.